There's DIY and then there's kill yourself.
Yeah.
Like, that's fucking ridiculous.
You're still listening. This is our final transmission.
Wow. We're here, Jamie. Hi, how are you?
I am great, Sam. How are you?
Fantastic. I would like to welcome you to Final Transmission, a horror podcast featuring me, Sam Russo, and you, Jamie Carruthers. From now
Hello.
until the end of time, the frogs.
Yes, okay. And what do we do on this podcast, Sam? We talk about horror movies. One horror movie a week.
We grab a movie, we slap it in the old slot, we watch it, and then we talk about it once a week, every week, forever.
Apart from a couple of weeks over Christmas where we didn't.
Yeah, sure. We have a break every now and then. Who doesn't? But
Yeah.
the general premise is forever.
We're in the throes of what I'm calling JAN-NOIR-Y because I wanted to cover some vaguely noir-themed horror films. And January has that bit in the middle that sounds vaguely like noir if you say it like a twat.
Thank you for explaining that. I was so lost.
And so that's what we're doing. And this week we're doing another one of those. It's the movie Frailty, directed by Bill William Paxton.
Good air quotes there around William.
Written
Nice.
by Brent Hanley. He hasn't written
Good
an
old
awful
Brent.
lot, but he did write a good Masters of Horror episode with George Wendt.
Bill Paxton
That's true.
hasn't
This is-
directed a lot either and hasn't acted much
Yeah.
since he died. So
This is his directorial debut, and it stars
Sure is.
Bill Paxton, Matthew McConaughey. All right. That's how he sounds, right? That's what he says.
he basically does that in his first line in this movie. So yes.
And also Powers Booth,
Yep.
giving
Good name.
some soap acting as an FBI guy.
Do you like Powers Booth? I just want to slide in real quick and get an opinion just to break up the facts.
I normally like Powers Booth.
Yeah.
In this, he's giving Days of Our Lives. Like it's not very good. I don't buy him as a cop in this movie for some reason.
Excellent. Please continue.
Well, that's Frailty, right? That's all we need to know. Do you want to do a synopsis?
Yes. Fuck you. Yes, I do. Fine. Oh no. Okay. Spoilers. Got to be careful. Got to be really
Of
careful.
course, yeah, we are spoiler free until the first break. So
I'm just going to use general terms so as not to alienate any of our audience, not because I'm terrible at synopsizing movies. A man who is an adult man goes to another man who is an adult man detective at the Federal Bureau of Investigation in Texas and says that he knows who is doing all the murders that have been happening lately, because there have been lots of murders lately.
Yeah.
Should have said that first. And he decides to unspool a tale of deep and twisting action, intrigue, adventure, and noir elements to this FBI agent, largely by way of exposition, while we, the audience, enjoy the story unfolding in the form of flashbacks, in which Bill Paxton plays a father of two sons, and Bill Paxton, the father, receives visions from God and angels telling him to destroy demons who are inhabiting human form. The two boys struggle with this, grapple with it in many ways, and our story reaches a tumultuous, supernatural, twisty climax in a rose garden.
yeah, and then hijinks ensue.
They sure do ensue. That's what happens in this film, pretty much.
That's a pretty decent synopsis there, Sam.
Pretty great.
Yeah.
Pretty great at this.
So, in a non-spoilery territory, I had never seen this before. It's been a film that I've been aware of for a while. I don't think I knew that it was directed by Bill Paxton, but I was aware of it as a movie, and it was sort of vaguely on my list of like movies to watch when I've run out of Seven and Stir of Echoes and
Yeah, when you're done watching like good thrillers, you will probably get to this.
yeah,
When you've watched A Simple Plan.
yeah, which I love. I do love A Simple Plan.
I read the book. I watched the movie a bunch. I think it's great.
Worth noting that Sam Raimi is thanked in the end credits here
Yeah, there's a hot list of hot dicks associated with this, right? Stephen King, Sam Raimi, James Cameron.
Yeah, so he thanks
All people.
he thanks James Cameron, Sam Raimi, and Ivan Reitman. Now, obviously, he's made Billy P has made a bunch of movies with James Cameron. He's made one movie with Sam Raimi, but he hasn't made any movies with Ivan Reitman. So I don't know what that's about. I was trying to figure out.
I was going to ask. Yeah, I can't think of any.
I went through like a bunch of stuff trying to figure out what and where and how, but maybe they're just mates from being in Hollywood.
Yeah, almost definitely. I read that when Paxton was, working up, I guess like taking the script to production, he got a lot of tips and cues and stuff from Stephen King, from all those boys, and I guess Reitman must have been in the mix there somewhere. A guy who knows a thing or two about movies.
Yeah, I think so, and like. He's a bit of a left field choice for that, I think. Like he's
Why is that?
I see him as like Stripes and Ghostbusters in my head, and that's it. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
I mean, I guess he did other stuff, but I saw his name and immediately watched Stripes afterwards. I just was like, oh yeah, Ivan Reitman, let's go watch Stripes.
Jamie, you lack impulse control. C word, watch movie.
Yeah.
I mean, his career, yeah, you're right. It's not just comedy, is it? It's kind of all over the shop. I mean, he's been involved in stuff like Ghostbusters, that's not just comedy. Kindergarten Cop is pretty deep.
Yeah, I would say so.
Done a load of shite. Executive producer on Rabid.
Oh yeah, 'cause he's Canadian. And I think I knew that. I think I remember reading that in Cronenberg on Cronenberg that they were like pally.
Yeah, I think those guys are probably just all mates and all know loads about movies.
Yeah.
I bet James Cameron could direct a fucking killer 90s twee as fuck rom-com, and I bet Ivan Reitman could direct a brilliant gore fest.
Yeah.
I think they just don't. They just do their thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I don't see a scenario where Bill Paxton's like, "Hi Ivan, I'm making a movie. I need some help." Oh sure. It's a supernatural suspense thriller. Oh, no, I'm out.
Yeah.
I only do Stripes. Probably just, chipping in.
So a thing that obviously I clocked early doors is there are some fairly stark similarities to a Matthew McConaughey property that we're both big fans of, which is True Detective.
Yeah, his performance is, in my opinion, basically Rustin Cole.
Yeah.
Like prototypical Rustin Cole.
Yeah, I would say so. And like obviously it's told in flashbacks. There's a whole possible unreliable narrator type situation.
Mm-hmm.
I would be surprised if I was to find that Nick Pozzaluto didn't seen this or engage with it. I know that it's like, fairly basic noirish tropes, supernatural noir type tropes, but like your star is also in it. Like it would be insane for you to have not engaged with it and then basically write something that was incredibly similar.
Yeah, it feels like aspects are definitely drawn from this, whether it's the performance or the character or just the general kind of space that McConaughey inhabits in this film.
Yeah.
It's obviously like fairly early in his career, and yeah, I mean, I would be surprised if there's not like a pretty direct link. It just feels like almost the same universe in a way, like a True Detective is like the late night movie, and this is the daytime soap version. It's there's some connective tissue, I think.
All right, so tell me this, Sam. Did you like it?
I'm going to blow your mind here, Jamie.
Go on.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't figured out how I feel. It's a tough one.
And we'll dig into this in spoilers after the jump, but I think that there is something fundamentally and structurally wrong.
Yes, I completely agree.
That makes it impossible to actually like. There's loads of stuff that I like.
Yeah.
And loads of stuff that is really cool and loads of stuff that is really sort of ominous and interesting, even if it's not good. But fundamentally, and I think I figured out what it is, and I will talk to you about it, but fundamentally, I think...
Thank you.
That there's a bad tent pole somewhere in it, and that means that the whole fucking thing is falling down around me in the woods.
Tent pole. Yeah, I think I completely agree. I think there's more wrong with it than the structure. But I think what I've settled on is this movie is the guy that you meet at a party and you talk to, and you're into quite a lot of the same stuff, and you get a generally okay feeling from this person that you maybe have a lot in common. but there's something fundamental missing that means you're never going to see him again.
Yeah. He's just dead behind the eyes, right?
Dead behind the eyes, 100%, and maybe, just doing some weird shit out the corner of your eye at the party, just like moving things.
Yeah. Remember that house show that we played where that guy turned up in a homemade throwing stuff t-shirt? Like that's the guy, right? That's who you mean.
Your t-shirts were £5.
I'll tell you what, this movie does get out of the way really early. This is going to be the last thing I say before we get into spoilers, I think, unless you've got anything else.
Cool.
They don't waste any time in getting Matthew McConaughey's shirt off.
Nope, straight away. Yep, just not inexplicably. It is Texas. It's probably hot. He's just on his couch with his abs out.
Have you noticed that the place is called Meat?
Is it Meat?
Yeah, Meat, Texas.
Wow.
So I was like, at the end, when it shows some characters standing around and some kids on scooters or whatever, there was a building and it said like the Texas Bank of Meat, and I was like, wait, do they have that in Texas? Like you go to I'd like to make a meat withdrawal, please. I'd like to deposit my meat.
Pants.
And then I was trying to figure out if that was a thing, and I was like, oh. And then I learned that the town was called Meat.
I thought they were saying Mead, as in Mead, Texas, but they're saying Meat, which is okay. Change my opinion. I love the film. That swayed it for me. Superb. Ties it all together. It's the Lebowski rug of the movie, The Town of Meat.
So yeah, I thought that was weird.
It is weird. Worth noting, Bill Paxton and Matthew McConaughey are both from Texas.
Yeah.
So two Texas good old boys, not really having to act much in the film, which is great. I think it does them big favors.
Yeah, I actually think that Bill Paxton's performance, once I understood the movie, I really liked.
I think I got to that same place almost in the same way, but it took me a very long time to really understand why the fuck he was giving this performance specifically. Because we know by this point in his career even, we know his range, we understand how intense he can be, we know what he can do, and we know that I'd go as far as to say quite possibly a great actor. He's a very good actor, definitely. Yeah. And because I've seen him in loads of stuff that I like, playing roles that I really like, I nudge him up the ladder a little bit and think he's pretty great. But he's not. He doesn't bring a lot of those chops to this role. He doesn't act in with my hand in the air.
Yeah, he's not giving a game over man performance. He's not doing that. Laconic and
yeah. And like you said, we need to talk about why and unpack that performance a little bit. It's quite important to unpack all the performances in this movie, I think, because they are jank.
Do you think it's weird that Bill Paxton isn't considered like a genre actor? He's been in so many like horror, sci-fi movies, but like he's never talked about in that breath.
Yes and no. I do think he's more of a broad character actor in my mind, just because I associate him more closely with stuff like Twister.
Yeah.
That feels more like a career-defining role. Wasn't he in like Armageddon or?
I think he was in Armageddon.
Apollo. He's in one of those.
Yeah, he's in one of those. I've not seen Armageddon for decades, so.
A movie with Aerosmith on the soundtrack, I guarantee, and something to do with space. He's in it. Apollo 13. That's the one.
Yeah, but he's in Aliens. He's in Terminator. He's in Near Dark. He's in Predator 2. These are all like big sci-fi horror, basically movies.
Yeah. I totally hear you, and that's of a time period as well, right? He's in those movies in relatively quick succession, so I reckon that's his agent working hard. But
he's also in like a bunch of like low budget horror movies, like Butcher Baker, Nightmare Maker, Mortuary, High School Killer. He was in The Dark Backward, which I love, which isn't a horror movie, but he made The Dark Backward, which is it's got Judd Nelson as like a failing comedian who grows an arm out of his back, and then becomes a very popular comedian off the back of the fact that he's got a third arm growing out of his back.
I'm all in.
Yeah,
that sounds fantastic.
And it's just a really sweaty and grimy, weird movie. It's sort of like Freaked with Alex Winter. It's that sort of vibe and aesthetic without the
kind of grotesque.
Yeah, but it's sort of human grotesque rather than like Screaming Mad George puppet grotesque.
Yeah. Unless, is it body horror-y or just sort of over the top?
There are body horror elements to it, but it's mostly played for goofs.
Right.
But in a way that it's like a comedy made for people who live in a different dimension.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
That sounds like a movie for us. I think so. Putting Paxton in that place, I think, is fair and fine, but maybe a little bit limiting because, yes, he's had a really broad career in terms of roles that he's played, but they haven't all been massively successful movies like Apollo 13. Do you know what I mean? Not every single movie he cranks out is an iconic and highly quotable genre piece where he's very much character acting. I think his best performance, controversially, I don't think is in leading roles. Like I think he's a good leading man and he's great in Twister and when he needs to step up, I think he does. But look at him in Nightcrawler and tell me that's not his best fucking performance.
Yeah, I think that's great. I love him. I will always love him as Hicks.
Yeah. I mean, you can't not. Like,
yeah.
It feels like, to me, it feels like a stretch for him because he's a fairly stoic. I mean, he's got a great sense of humor, obviously, as a human being. A great sense of humor as a human being, and you see that in a lot of offset footage. But he is pretty earthy. Like he's a pretty down to earth guy.
Yeah.
So it feels like that whole vibe of Hicks is a stretch and a fun one for him. But here's a question for you: has Paxton ever been in a hockey movie?
I am not sure about that. I don't think so. Unless he was the duck in the Mighty Ducks.
No, I don't think he was a duck. A duke, as they say up north. They
don't say that. they up north we only say ook or oo if it's double O.
No, this is an argument I have with too many people. I know a woman from Macclesfield who pronounces
Macclesfield is not north enough.
It's the north.
Basically.
You're shaking your head as if Macclesfield isn't the north. It's right next to Manchester. That's the north.
Oh, yeah. No, you're right. I'm getting it mixed up with Mansfield.
Oh, Mansfield.
Which is in the Midlands.
That's lower, isn't it?
Yeah, it's in the Midlands.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Well, feed the Dukes. The reason I ask is I had a dream last night in a slightly boozy stupor that I was doing all this crazy hockey stuff with Bill Paxton. Like, he was putting me through drills, and I didn't really know why no one was saying, like, you're Bill Paxton. And then, literally, clickety-clack, I found out we were in a movie together. And I was acting with Bill Paxton in a hockey movie. So I thought maybe I'd seen something when I was a kid, and it had sunk deep into my subconscious. But I think I just invented that out of my ass.
I think he was in a baseball movie.
Oh, yeah?
I think was he in, like, Rookie of the Year or, like, one of those Mr. Baseball type movies.
Quite possibly.
Well, why don't we take our break, Sam, and come back and do some spoilers, get into the meat of Meat Texas?
Yeah, let's unpack this meat.
Yeah.
Whoa, holy shit. I guess that's why they call it Phantom Power.
Oh, whoa, I'm back. Are you back?
I am very back, Sam.
Oof. Heck, what a break.
I have a question. I have a question
Yeah.
for you, Sam. Important question. Any Texas bands on Red Scare Industries?
No. But one time we were on tour, me, a band called Kalamazoo from Chicago,
Nice.
gotta check them out, and a young human called Tane Graves from the band Tightwire from Minneapolis-ish. And Tane was dressed how he's always dressed and was presenting to the world how he always presents. And Toby Jeg, co-founder, co-owner of Red Scare Industries, saw him on this tour for the first time about halfway through, and his jaw hit the floor, and he said something along the lines of, "What the fuck are you wearing? You look like a Texas State Trooper's wet dream. You're going to jail." So no, we don't have any bands from Texas. But yes, we're aware of it existing.
Even though there are no bands from Texas on Red Scare, you should still go to redscare.net and peruse their wares.
Wyoming is the Texas of the West, right?
Yeah?
That's not a thing you're allowed to say, I don't think.
What's the Texas of the North?
There's probably people from Texas on Red Scare, in Red Scare bands. There's got to be, right?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, you should go to redscare.net and treat yourself to some clothing, some music, some items. Red Scare, the United States of America's premier forefront purveyors of independent punk rock music for you, your friends, your family, and your pets.
They are the Texas of punk rock labels, right?
They are. They are the Tejas of punk rock.
While you're in the mood for doing stuff, go to our Patreon and you'll be able to see a visual version of this, which is fascinating and unedited mostly, and great. And so for just some dollars/pounds a month, you can have that.
Yep.
All right, let's get into spoilers for the movie Frailty, because we've been recording now for 7 hours?
And we've said nothing.
Yeah.
Frailty. Spoilers. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, so I clocked the twist right off the bat. The second that the flashback started, because the brother has got dark hair and McConaughey has blonde hair. And in the flashbacks, the little brother, the one that goes with the killings, he has blonde hair, and the other brother, Fenton, has dark hair. So it's immediately obvious in that moment that I was like, oh, they've cast it backwards, and then I was like, no, it's probably something.
It's probably a twist. I mean, it at least suggests it. It gives you a chance, doesn't it? If you're not really paying attention, or you're maybe not that bright, you could so easily not pick up on that.
Yeah.
But at the second it started, because immediately so Matthew McConaughey walks into this FBI office. He's stolen an ambulance. He's acting sketchy as balls. You think to yourself, right, there's obviously going to be a twist in this movie because of the tone.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's too boring not to have a twist.
Yeah.
Right? It has to have some spark. So you're and I really enjoy doing this. I love predicting out loud the twist, and I prefer getting it wrong because it's way more fun when you get it wrong. But I immediately said, as soon as it was, demons and they had a list, I was like, right, the detective is on the list, and the twist is that McConaughey's going to lure him somewhere and kill him. And then as soon as it was like there was any kind of ambiguity about the brothers, I was like, oh, fuck me, they switched the brothers. But I was wrong, because I tried to apply too much sense, and I was like, okay, so one brother faked his suicide, and McConaughey stole the ambulance that he was in, pretending to be dead, and then they drove there, and they're going to do this. That would have made more sense.
Yeah, it would have.
The movie doesn't make any sense.
The one thing really that saves that specific twist, the Matthew McConaughey isn't Fenton Meeks, he's really Adam Meeks twist, is that they don't punch you in the face with it. It's just like, well, what if I'm Adam Meeks and not Fenton Meeks? And the movie's like, oh yeah, what if you are? Cool, carry on. The real egregious, annoying bullshit twist for me is, oh, it's all real, and we really are killing demons. The demons are real, and we are killing them.
It's good delivery. So I'm polar opposite to you on this one. So I quite like that. I don't mind that. That's fine. I wish they could have hammered home a bit more that he'd switcherooed his entire story. Because it just lands so flat. You figured it out by that point, but he's just like, I was saying I when I really meant he. It wasn't me. It was the other one. Like, lame.
Yeah.
No dun dun dun. No nothing. I mean, the movie's so made for TV till that point. It needs a dun dun dun.
It has the beat of a dun dun dun, but it doesn't hammer it. Like there's the moment where he's talking about like I promised my brother that I would bury him up at Rose Canyon or whatever the fuck it's called, Rose Grove,
the Rose Garden,
and then it shows in the flashback him promising to bury his brother, or the other way around or something, and then the cop's like, wait, but you said the other thing, and he's like, yeah, but what if I'm not him? What if I'm me? And it's I just sort of liked that it was like, all right, everybody knows the twist at this point, so we don't need to have a Usual Suspects cup drop moment. Like,
yeah, I just needed it. I don't know why it didn't feel complete. It felt like it got lost up its own ass and then went, I'm the other brother.
Yeah,
nothing.
And so the fundamental sort of pillar of the movie that I think is wrong is that the movie is told from Adam's point of view.
Yeah,
but we don't know that it's Adam's point of view. And even when we do know that he's telling the story and we figured out that it's the twist, like we still don't really know the unreliable narrator element of it. So like the issue is, right, that the dad is too rational about everything. Like I, at the very start I wrote like, I wish Bill Paxton was my dad, and then I was like, all right, maybe not. And like
I bet you fucking were.
And then like,
lock me in the cellar, Bill. But make me dig it first. Life's
a murder cellar. Dig it. That's what they say, right?
Hang on, I got to just stop one thing real quick. It's told from Fenton's point of view.
No, it's not. It's told from Adam's point of view. And that's...
By Fenton.
Yeah, well, it's told from what you are led to believe is Fenton's point of view, but it's told from Adam's point of view, because what you're seeing.
It's Adam telling you it from Fenton's point of view.
Well, yeah, he's telling it, but he doesn't know Fenton's point of view, and so he
invents it.
Yeah. So the issue is that Bill Paxton's character is so rational because Adam believes the stuff that he's saying. So like he never comes across as like insane or manic, apart from in one section, which I'll talk about, but like. Because Adam buys into the stuff that he's saying, like he can't portray this character as being insane or nuts or bonkers or whatever, because like he believes it. And the only time that Bill Paxton's character looks irrational is when he is forcing Fenton to dig the hole and stay in the hole. And that's because even with all of the belief and the buy-in that Adam has about what his dad believes and about the demons and all that stuff, because it's, true in the world of the movie, which I think is bullshit, but whatever. Like, the only time he thinks that he's being irrational is when he's, hiding his brother in the cellar.
Yeah.
That's why I think that once I got hooked into that, I was like, okay, Bill Paxton's performance is good, because he's, in the eyes of Adam, the character that's telling the story, he is a loving dad who just happens to have these, vaguely out there beliefs, but that we as a viewer or as a storyteller are meant to be buying into, and so that made the performance work for me there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's dumb. It's a dumb thing to do.
Yeah. The ultimate caveat, or like the bookend there is, so in Adam's telling of the story, he obviously portrays his dad as, like you said, fairly rational given the circumstances, and he portrays his brother as a pretty sympathetic character, and he's doing this deliberately because he's deceiving the cop, right? The detective.
Yeah.
So we're watching the movie of his telling of events. So yes, fine performances from that point of view, but not compelling, unfortunately.
No.
Like, for me, the flashbacks, so we're going to disagree on this, I think, but it's fun to explore what we think is wrong, with how this movie lands. For me, we spend way too much time in the past. The flashbacks, for me, could have been really clever clues and there could have been more intrigue and more noir-esque stuff if we were much more in the present, with the far more compelling storyline between this FBI agent who, what the fuck, turns out to be a demon, and Matthew McConaughey, who, is in both versions of this story, the past and the present, but we're just not given enough in the present to really have a character to hang our hat on. It's just imbalanced.
Yeah.
There's way too much flashback and not enough current stuff. And in a movie where that's balanced out a little bit more, you have less troublesome Paxton to deal with and less sort of stale narrative from the point of view of a kid who is changing and glossing over a lot of really key stuff for your viewing pleasure. And you have more compelling mystery and intrigue. So yeah, a clever idea, but it just fucking slides around a bit too much for me.
Yeah, I think that's a thing as well, which makes me think that Nick Pozzoluto, or whatever his name is, who made True Detective, did see this, because that is a fundamental issue here, is that we spend too much time in the past, and the stuff that happens in the present is basically like a little button, as like see, whoop. Whereas like obviously True Detective takes a lot of that stuff and then brings a lot more of it into the present, and that makes it much more interesting as a thing to watch. And I think obviously True Detective is about, except for maybe series 2, is about older detectives reflecting on their lives and their things that they couldn't solve or they couldn't resolve during their career. And so, you have to bring that into the present when you're like looking back, and that's what really works, particularly in that first season. The third season, a bit. The fourth season, also a bit, but like it was particularly in that first season, which is like the true Detective show that we all love.
Yeah. What do you think of the idea in this movie of revealing to the audience the McConaughey deception at some point fairly early, say start of the second act, and then spending more time in the present knowing McConaughey's going to fucking do something to this cop and making us more sympathetic to the cop, and then when you find out he's a demon, it's more of a twist.
Yeah, I think another fundamental issue that I have with this movie is that demons aren't just bad people.
Yeah. Like, okay, Fuck. We're going there. Jamie and his demons. Yeah. I don't know what else to say. The movie is just wrong. Like, this, like, Archangel Gabriel style flaming sword descends from the sky and tells you that you're empowered to destroy demons, but they're just people who've done fucked up stuff.
Yeah.
So you just become a serial killer. Like, thanks God. Sick.
Yeah, like it's the Boondock Saints, right? Told from a different point of view. Like it's
Yeah.
in the flashbacks that Adam is telling.
Yeah.
And he purposefully doesn't reveal to us that the when Bill Paxton puts his hands on people, he can see that they're demonic crimes or whatever. But in those flashbacks, we still see the dad see the angels.
Yeah.
So does that to you say that his belief in his dad is so strong that like he has to include that?
Yeah, I think he implants everything that we see in the past in the story. I think we have to, now that we know what's happening, watch that entire past part of this movie through his eyes as his creation. So even when we see the fucking awesome Twilight Zone shot of Fenton's head just hovering in blackness, like my favorite part of the movie, so classic, so old school, so evocative. When we see that, that's his imagining of his, of Fenton's mindset as he loses his mind in the cellar. I think all of that is that's why, in my opinion, we give a pass to that dreadful angel scene because it's so out of place, because it's essentially how a kid imagined that happening and then retold it as a crazy adult.
I think the sort of floating disembodied head in the cellar as well, I think that is pure Raimi, and like that's the Raimi element. I mean, there might be some more in the storytelling and in the back end, but I think like that's the most Raimi part of the whole thing. Yeah,
it's great. It leaps out. It doesn't fit is the main problem. There's a lot of stuff that happens in this movie that's cool that doesn't really fit.
Yeah,
because you're kind of penned in this fairly blue and beige world of the 70s. And then you start throwing shit like that in there, and yes, it kind of sparks the whole like, well, why is that there? This is interesting. What's happening? But it doesn't feel the continuity is kind of disrupted by that a little bit.
Yeah,
which hurts the overall takeaway, I think.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and I think like you say, this movie just doesn't really make sense and doesn't really hang together. There are a bunch of things that I do like. Go on, sorry.
Can I ask about something that I still don't really get?
Go on.
What happens? So at the end, right?
Yeah.
Are we supposed to believe that Fenton grows up to be a serial killer?
Yeah.
And in tandem with that, Adam grows up to destroy demons.
Yeah.
AKA also be a serial killer.
So if you remember the angel or whatever, the dad has a vision and says that Fenton is a demon.
Yeah, is a demon, yeah.
And so presumably he couldn't fight this demonic nature for very long and became a serial killer.
Yeah.
And Adam continues to be a demon hunter, protected by God, and therefore no one can see him on CCTV or remember what he looks like or whatever.
Yeah.
So they are basically like dueling serial killers, but one has the power of God on his side.
And so the thing is that Adam couldn't vanquish Fenton, we're told, until he was a demon.
Well, I think
that doesn't make any sense.
When the angel told Bill Paxton that Fenton is a demon, he didn't put him on the list. He just was like, he's a demon.
Yeah.
And so
so until he gets on the list.
Yeah, you can't kill them until they end up on the list, right?
It's dumb. It's a steaming pile of dumb.
Yeah.
In meat. Dumb.
The worst thing is, I think, is that, not the worst thing, but a thing is that the Adam's killings, demon destroyings, have been like going completely under the radar.
Yeah.
Forever, because like he's protected by God or whatever. Which is,
even though they're all fucking buried 2 feet above the ground in one place.
Yeah. But God makes the people blind. That's why I don't like or buy that it's real. The demon stuff is real. But in the end, when Adam kills the detective, Powers Booth,
Yeah.
He then like puts the list in Fenton's stuff, because Fenton is the God's Hand killer. Then has a room of evidence or whatever that he's saved. But now Adam has applied this list to Fenton's stuff, so presumably they're going to know that all these other people are missing and killed, and they're
find them.
And they're going to go look for them, and then they'll presumably find the Rose Garden and dig up 40 years worth of corpses, like.
Exactly. I was watching this play out in my mind, you know, the hypothetical tying up of the ends. Fucking hell. Nonsense. Like, none of this, all ridiculous. And do you know what it is? Do you know what that part of the movie is? It's Stephen fucking King.
Of course it is.
Our Lord and Savior. And that is a Stephen Kingism. Like, because he's so obsessed with twisty crime, but so bad at it. Like, it's hilarious to me how many crime books Stephen King has written that make no sense.
Yeah.
It's got his big old fucking crab-covered fingerprints all over this shit. And to be honest, the only thing that saves it for me at the end is this, again, kind of fun, fairly silly idea of, you know, scratchy CCTV tapes obscuring his face and people not being able to remember him. I thought that was a very, very fun and pretty cool device to apply after the fact to explain some shit, but also visually, I think it was quite fun and worked well. The confused detective, I can't remember his face. I fucking look straight in his eyes. You know, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I like the fact that we get like the reverse dolly zoom. So like, obviously, normally a dolly zoom is meant to represent like a realization of some kind, and it's the opposite. It's like the memory or the recognition like coming out of the detective's head.
Confusion zoom.
Yeah, it's great. I think that's a really cool. I mean, like I say, I don't buy any of that stuff in that final sort of tie-in, particularly that in the final shot. Also, he's a fucking sheriff. Why? Who cares? What?
So fun.
What are we doing?
And who's his wife? Who's your pregnant wife? What's happening? There's a chunk of movie missing there, I think, surely. Like, just drop that in and not do anything with it.
Yeah, I guess that the pregnant wife is to show that it's the cycle is moving on, because in the final shot of the movie, when him and his wife are stood outside the sheriff's office and there's the National Bank of Meat next door, and like a couple of kids come around the corner on bikes.
Yeah,
those are the kids. Those are the two kids that play Adam and Fenton.
Yeah.
So it's meant to represent some sort of ongoing cycle of this movie happening again and again and again. Which, like, sure, but no.
Yeah, sure, but no is the whole movie.
Yeah.
Like, I like him as becoming a sheriff just because it's the only like quote unquote positive resolution you could really have for this fucking shit show of a character.
Yeah.
Of course he becomes the sheriff, like the righteous sword of the the institution of fucking whatever, Texas. I don't know.
Meat.
It makes sense to me and it works.
Righteous sword of meat.
Yeah, the righteous sword of meat, the meat sword, come in to fucking have it. Fine. Again, why? Here's a big question. Why rush the ending of this movie so egregiously? Why pack it? Why plod through the entire film at this pretty steady pace and then be like, fucking everything happens at the very end?
Yeah, it doesn't work. It feels like they fall down the stairs. Like...
Yeah. You're carefully stepping down each step and then like a fucking sack full of potatoes down into the basement.
Bill Paxton and Matthew McConaughey are slowly carrying a fucking Steinway piano down the stairs. Yeah. And then one of them loses their footing and the ending of the movie happens.
Yeah, exactly. Whoops. And all of that, also, I need your take on this. Roger Ebert likes this film a lot.
Yeah, I did read that.
Fucking why? This guy is such a fucking fruit banana cake. What is he doing?
I don't know, but in his review, he says that we see the demon visions too, which we don't until the end.
We don't.
So
until the end, yeah. Well, we see... He's wrong. You don't, but you see the like visceral reaction to so I guess we're supposed to believe, of course, he's seeing it because we can see him.
But we believe that he believes it. But in those flashback stories, but like we don't believe it. We're meant to be we're Team Fenton at that point. So like we're meant to be thinking this guy's fucking nutbar.
But that's a good point to make, in that when we see him reacting to physically touching these people, that's, for me at least, when the needle started to twitch a bit and make me completely disavow the idea that he's just gone nuts and wants to kill people. He's made a list, he checked it twice, he's going to go out and fuck you up nice. Like he actually is seeing demons. That's when that tipped a little bit for me. So that was pivotal. Yeah. You don't see the visions.
No, I mean, we do at the end.
Yeah.
But
also lame. You don't see all of them, and you don't see the interesting ones. You see the nurse who slashed some guy's throat. And then I thought this was quite fun. So the old man is supposed to be a pedo.
Yeah.
He's
Demonic
a child
pedo.
actor coach. His actual job, he's not really an actor. He coaches child actors. Cast as a pedo. That's great. For me, that speaks to Bill Paxton's sense of humor,
Yeah.
I think.
Oh, almost definitely. The main issue of this sort of vein of shit that runs through the movie, the unreliable narrative stuff that doesn't really work, the fact that the story doesn't really hang together, the key thing in this, the dad is too rational, Bill Paxton is too rational thing, means that there are no stakes. The stakes don't feel like there are anything. Like, people are being murdered with an axe in a storm cellar in Meat, Texas, and there are no stakes. It never feels like people are... Obviously, Bill Paxton doesn't want to make a gore movie. He doesn't want to make Texas Chainsaw Massacre, although he does borrow a shot from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I thought was really cool, which is when Bill Paxton carries Fenton down the stairs into the cellar, and it's like a reverse shot of the bit where Leatherface is carrying Pam, grabbing Pam from behind.
The kicking, and
which I thought was great. And maybe a nudge or a nod to McConaughey's performance in Texas Chainsaw Massacre before the next generation. Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe not.
But like all of the gore is off screen. There's very little blood that we see. We actually only see blood when they kill a person. So when they're killing demons, you never see any blood.
Yeah.
Which again,
and then he gets the stains on his shirt and the bit on his back.
Yeah, when he kills like the cop, who fucking deserves it. If someone comes to you, you're fucking Detective Inspector Sam
cop.
Russo.
Yeah.
And someone comes to you and says, "My dad is murdering people," and your job is, and then you go, "Okay, well, let's go take you to your dad. Are you a murderer?" "No, I'm not, sir." "Okay." "Oh, no, I'm dead." Fucking you,
Jamie.
You deserve it.
You're biased. You've never been through the police academy. You don't know the standard procedure for kids telling you their dad is a murderer. And step one is always take the kid to the dad and ask him.
Yeah.
The teacher at the academy on day one.
Just movie cops, man. I hate him.
So his death was a genuine surprise to me.
Yeah.
And a good, I guess, a jump scare, but the best kind. We love them at Final Transmission. We're not snobby about our scares. Good jump scare, as good as any other kind of scare. And I thought that was really well executed. I loved, in a way, that we never found out why the axe had Otis written on it. We just assume that's the owner has carved his name into it. But they fucking show it 3 billion times.
Yeah.
And we're never even remotely told why or what's going on with the axe.
So I think the idea is that it's meant to show that it's still the axe that he's using in the end. So like having something.
Oh, okay. Sure.
That like carries that through. I think my least favorite shot in the whole movie is the shot where it shows McConaughey. It's maybe not even McConaughey, but it shows somebody picking up the axe in the final showdown, and it's like it really lingers on it and hammers it. Like you see it in the wide.
It's the axe,
and I guess it has something carved in on it, and you can't maybe tell what it is, but like your brain is like, well, obviously it's the same axe, so you don't need this lingering shot of the axe. I don't care for that.
What about when Adam has this pet something in a jar?
Yeah.
Called, what's the fucking thing's name?
I can't remember. It's a spider, right?
It's like, is it a spider?
I think it's a tarantula or something.
Okay.
Some sort of big spider.
And then later on in the movie, someone's got that name. Like, all these callbacks just don't land.
Yeah.
Like, they just don't work. There's There's no substance to them. They don't make any sense. All that said, I wasn't rolling my eyes and sighing and wishing for this movie to be over. I really enjoyed the general atmosphere, I think. It wasn't, like you said, the stakes just weren't there for it to be tense or thrilling as a tense thriller. But it was still kind of pleasurable to just have pass by in front of you. It felt like a low catalog Stephen King movie to me, which is fine for a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
And there was enough of people that I like in it to keep shit moving.
Yeah, so I think there's I read a piece by Michael Gingold in Fangoria, and I think that he had some really good points here, which is that more sort of fledgling horror directors should come from like the world of acting rather than the world of music videos. And that case in point here is that like this movie came out at a similar time to Stigmata. They deal with very similar like subject matter. Stigmata is unwatchable because it is a music video montage of dog shit flying at a screen for an hour and 45 minutes or whatever.
Agreed.
And this it's much more interesting, despite the fact that it doesn't make any sense and the performances are kind of jank and everything's kind of shit. It feels measured and it feels like something that somebody tried that maybe just didn't quite work, rather than like, oh yeah, I know what I'm doing. Let's have some fast cuts and some shaky visuals and some fucking scrabbly music and call it a movie.
I don't think I've ever agreed with anything more in my life. That is do you know what? Just saying this is a film and that isn't is enough. Like this takes a lot of swings that aren't so absurd that it destroys the movie. It's measured. It steps a little bit out of its lane in a way that's kind of endearing. It is visually coherent and has a narrative. It doesn't all make sense or gel, but at least no one's insulting my fucking intelligence every single second of the movie.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think like visually it's a little bit, static. Not static, but a bit like kind of boring. But I think the idea is that the visuals are meant to just give you space for the performances. And the performances don't massively work. I know that this isn't, we're not going to say that this is McConaughey's greatest work, even to this point. I low-key think the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie that he is in is borderline unwatchable. But his performance as like the head of the Texas Chainsaw family, the Sawyer family or whatever, is pretty fucking good.
Right.
And he's genuinely like wild-eyed and scary in a cool way. So
he does that well, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't ever really recommend Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation to anybody. But if you're a Matthew McConaughey fan and you want to see some interesting Matthew McConaughey early career stuff, you could do worse.
Should be on your list, yeah.
Yeah. I think fast forward the first 20 minutes and everything with Renée Zellweger in it.
So everything in the past in this movie, for me, is shot exactly right.
Yeah.
It's very sensibly shot, which I have a huge amount of respect for. There's like a work person-like feeling to every shot. It's composed well. The color is perfect. It has that kind of washed out, slightly faded look that totally places it in time. There's never an angle where you think, "Ooh, easy, Bill." It's just put together really nicely. And I know that's not high praise. You expect that in a movie of this budget and with this kind of caliber of star and director. But it's still, there's loads of stuff that's just sensibly lit. Like the shot is composed well. It's lit appropriately. That's all I need from a movie like this. And I don't need the Raimi stuff, really. It almost kind of, I hate to say it, but kind of fucks with the flow a little bit. And the way that the action moves shot to shot just makes perfect sense. It's not interruptive. It just kind of flows really nicely. And when you dissect the movie in still format and you look at a lot of the stills, you do realize, okay, a lot of this stuff looks really fucking beautiful. And I didn't even really notice because there was also stuff happening that was quite compelling. So you put those two things together and you've actually got a pretty enjoyable viewing experience.
I completely agree. Like, I think there is, as we've mentioned, a river of shit that runs through basically the middle of this movie.
A river of shit that runs through the center of meat.
Yeah. That sort of, that flabby vein that runs down the middle of your T-bone. Like,
Good grief.
I made a list of all the stuff that I really liked in this movie. So, I mean, I think we've been fairly measured in our criticism, but I want to go through this list of stuff that I actually liked.
Jamie, why don't you tell us in list format everything you liked about this movie? This is going to be here a while, aren't we?
I mean, there's a few points on this list. Okay,
do it in the form of knock knock jokes to make it interesting.
All right, knock knock.
Who's there?
The shithead cop getting what he deserves.
Yep, good stuff.
You're supposed to say the shithead cop who gets what gets.
Oh, the shithead cop getting what he deserves. Who?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, the end.
But like, I would axe you myself. Like, you fucking. Yeah. If the dad isn't going to do it, the kid should have done it. Like,
I disagree. I think in the context of this small Texas town, he does exactly what he's supposed to do. I think he's great.
There's a moment where before Bill Paxton kills the cop, where he's like,
yeah.
If it has to be done, it has to be done. Does it have to be done? And the kid's like, yeah, I know that you're going to kill him, but he needs to see or whatever. And I rate that as a moment of like suspense. Like, we know everybody in the, apart from this fucking clueless fucking state trooper or whatever.
Yeah. He works from home. He's a cop who's just in his house, unattended station outside. Hilarious.
Okay, I think, like I say, I think Paxton's performance is really good. Once you figure out, once you sort of hook into the fact that he's being told as rational because the person that's telling the story believes him.
He's not really allowed to act that well.
I think like he comes across as a really loving dad who just happens to have this thing that he needs to do. And like, I believe him as a dad that loves his kids and wants to have his kids be happy and also help him kill people who are demons.
If you're vanquishing demons because angels told you to, this is how you would want your kids to remember you. Yeah. Which is the crux of that whole portrayal. So yes, it works on that level, and like we said, carry on. Next on the list.
I do like the conceit that there are two serial killer siblings who are sort of kind of at war. Like, I think that's a cool idea. It doesn't make sense, but like as an idea, the idea just two serial killers, one of them's good and one of them's evil. Like that's so fun to me.
Despicable trash. No, that's awful. So shit. It's begging to be a spin-off fucking early evening TV series.
Yeah, like Supernatural or some shit like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, my next point, I guarantee you're going to agree with me on.
Go on.
I'll put £3 on whether you agree with me or not.
I've got £3 right here.
There you go. The Chevy van is the coolest vehicle you'll ever see in a movie.
Take a ride in my Chevy van. Great song too. Chevy vans are absolutely top tier, especially ones with plywood blocking out the back windows.
It's so cool. Like the little like freezer doors, like industrial freezer doors on the side. It's just a really cool thing.
And it's such a weird color. It's not gold, silver, or blue. It's like somewhere in between. It's great.
Yeah. And then finally, the thing that I really liked is that we're dealing in, for the most part of the movie until the end when it's revealed that it's all fucking real, blah, 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 is that we're dealing in like God made me do it territory, which is obviously a thing that's been based in a lot of true crime.
Yeah.
I mean, most obviously there's Joseph Callinger who believed that God told him to kill. He convinced one of his sons to come along with him and killed his other son and a couple of other kids, I think, in the neighborhood. He believed that God had told him to kill everyone in the world, which is bold. I don't know how you would think that you could kill everyone in the world, even if you had the power of God behind you.
You shoot for the moon, bud.
Like at some point, surely you're like, oh,
try your best.
I've got to go to fucking Africa now. I've got to go to fucking Lapland.
I've got to start on out. I've done everywhere else. I've got to start on Africa now.
Africa's
massive. My God, I haven't got time.
Imagine like lying down and being like, oh, I'm done. I've killed everyone, and then like, boop doop doop, just some guy starts wandering down the road, like.
Fuck! I knew I missed one. Come here, you. You go chase one guy around the whole world.
Yeah.
Great movie. I'd watch this. The man who killed everyone.
Yeah. There was Andrea Yates who believed her kids were going to hell because she was such a bad mum. And so she drowned 5 of her kids in a bathtub.
Uplifting stuff.
Yeah, and then there was also Deanna Laney, who believed God told her to bash her son's heads in with rocks in order to prove her faith.
God
Basically
told
bad.
me to skin you alive.
God's a bad guy, I think.
I think there's a big conversation to be had here about how the institution of religion warps people's minds. The less we talk about it, the better.
But if this movie is to be believed, these people were acting on God's will, and God is real, and God's will to kill people who may or may not be demons or may have to go to hell or whatever. Also, if you think your kids are going to hell, don't kill them. Keep them alive forever. But you're literally sending your kids to hell.
Sure. But you fucking hell. We can't go there, Jamie. We'll be here for a week. Do you know what? I've been thinking about this in the back of my mind. The whole demons aren't just bad people thing. I think if God or a big flaming angel came down to a mechanic in Texas, the best way to get that message across would be to be like, they're demons, kill them. Rather than being like, these people have committed horrible acts, and while God loves all his children, and while no sin can be is totally unforgivable, I need you to kill them. He'd be like, well, but what about, I'm going to go ask the pastor. So because that is a simple message for a simple man, I think it actually kind of works. A simple man with a simple plan.
Okay.
I would have liked to have seen the angel be another mechanic and just come up and be like, hey, check it out, demons. And then he has to go kill him. Like, that would have been better for me.
Well, like, the visions that we see, they can be explained by, like, shit that's happening around him.
I was going to get to that, which I really like. The sparks flying. By the way, don't use an angle grinder close to another man's head while he's under a car.
Yeah.
But it was fun. It was a good visual. The sparks flying in. He could have been under the influence of some fumes, and the sparks created a hallucination. I thought that was nice. Kind of kept me hanging in. The idea that maybe he's mental.
Yeah, but he's not. God's real, and God wants him to kill people. And therefore, all of these people in real life that killed people because God wanted them to are justified.
I got no problem with it. In the universe of the movie, I think it's fine. It's really the only thing that works and makes the movie actually do things.
No,
because if
I think
take
the
that out of
opposite.
it, what have you got left? Crazy Bill Paxton.
Yeah.
Crazy kids.
Yeah,
Inexplicable
I think
craziness.
that's fine. I think, like, we can deal in some ambiguity. I think is more interesting to me is that if we're left in a place of like, hey, maybe he was real. Like if there was something in those final scenes that vaguely suggested that maybe it was real, but also vaguely suggested that maybe it wasn't, rather than being like, video cameras can't capture this man. He's too protected by God or whatever.
I like that.
Like, I like it as a visual. I think it's cool, but like I think I would just rather have a little nugget of ambiguity at the end. Like, yeah, he's been getting away with it forever, and so did his dad. Yeah,
I mean, as always, I love the idea of a God that's like, I need you to kill 7 people in Texas. like we're diverting resources to this mechanic, and he's going to help us get rid of 7 bad guys in a fucking small town in Texas.
So what we haven't talked about is the kids list. God came to me and gave me a list of all the people that are bullying me. That means you're going to hell, child.
That was sick. Well, this appears to be a list of just people you don't like. Coincidence? But that's what Fenton grows up to do, right? He does grow up to just fucking kill people. Again, we don't have enough insight to know who he kills or why. I sort of assumed that there was more being said here about childhood trauma, because Fenton is clearly not going to grow up with his head squarely on his shoulders.
Why not? His dad is God's right hand serial killer, demon slayer, and he spent God knows how long locked in a basement. This is normal Texas upbringing, right?
Pretty much, yeah. And do you know what I love about this movie? These kids can really fucking dig a hole. Like, I haven't seen kids dig holes like this in a long time, and it made me want to go out my house and be an old man and be like, go dig a hole, kid. Like, kids need to learn how to dig more. Yeah. That kid dug a fucking basement in a week. That's amazing. Really impressive. They must have dug dozens of graves.
Yeah.
Are you not impressed by that? I think that's amazing.
I've never dug a hole as impressive as the one that becomes the storm cellar. So,
Jamie, that's a given. I would go as far as to say you've never dug a hole.
I've dug so many holes.
No, you haven't.
I have.
When was the last time you dug a hole?
I don't know, 1998.
1998. What was the whole? What was the context? If you're at the beach, it doesn't fucking count,
No, I think.
bud.
Do you know when you're a kid and we've talked about like the farmer and all of that stuff? We would go play like near railroad, like a railway that was near. It was a disused railway that was near the house where I grew up, and like we would go and we would light fires and we would find discarded TVs and smash them up and dig big holes.
Yeah.
Like that's the stuff that I did when I was 14, 15. So
I buy it. Unreliable narrator, but I buy it. When you were smashing up those TVs, how fucked off are you now that you didn't just take them home and keep them? I would love all that shit that we smashed up as kids right now.
I would assume that it didn't work. But I also
That's
kept...
why you were smashing it up, yeah.
I kept all of like the circuit boards and I strapped them onto like old like long sleeve tops to make myself into a robot.
Ah, fuck. I was going to do a 3-2-1 and say what you did with them because I was going to go 3-2-1. I made time machines with them. I would tie them to shit and put them on trees and boxes and stuff and be like, check it out, time machine. How does it work? Don't know. Circuit boards on a tree.
I think I might have done a time machine as well, or like a transmogrification device or something like that. Like,
yeah,
for people that were quite outdoorsy,
a weird science machine.
Yeah.
Make me a hot babe. It's a pile of broken crap in the woods.
Put your mum's bra on your head and
yeah, smoke a cig and go beep boop boop and press a button. I like Bill Paxton directing. I'm going to go ahead and add to the list. I would have liked it if he directed more, and it's very sad that he died.
Yeah, like I think, like I say, the movie, while the performances aren't necessarily the greatest thing in the world, the movie is designed to be like roomy, to allow these performances to be front and center. So the direction is cool and interesting, but also kind of just sort of there. But like you said, when you analyze it frame by frame, which I didn't do, but if you like any pauses that you do during the runtime, like you're always going to stop it on something that looks interesting, and that's like a really subtle and quite nice thing to have. Like you're making a film that looks incredible, but it seems super low effort, and I think that's something that we should all aspire to.
Yeah, I think it's a solid directorial job. In a pretty flawed movie, which almost speaks to his talent more. You've done a great job with something that is kind of broken. Well done. Like, I think that's a good thing. Okay, well that's essentially everything I've got to say about the movie Frailty. Apart from why the fuck is it called Frailty? Are you committing suicide at the box office, you maniacs?
Yeah, possibly. Well, why don't we come back, go away, and then come back and sum our final thoughts up.
Let's do it.
All right.
Will you give it up, man? Nobody's out there. We're alone. Oh no, there's somebody out there. I'm picking up all this crosstalk.
Okay, Sam.
I'm back. Are you back, Jay? Third time lucky.
Yeah, I am back.
Good. Glad.
I want to sum up my thoughts more generally, okay? This film is better than it should be, but nowhere near as good as it could be.
Mm-hmm.
There's the river of shit running through the middle of me, as we've discussed. There's...
Middle of you.
Meat.
Oh, I thought you said middle of me. Right, yeah. Meat shit. Yeah, sorry.
There's some interesting stuff. There's some swings. There's some things that don't work. It's fascinating to see a young McConaughey in like a role like this. Like the sort of role that would basically become his bread and butter, but he hasn't quite found the place for it yet. He hasn't found the performance that would be that sort of weird, stoic, looking into the middle distance kind of guy that he basically, that's who he is. That's his whole thing. And yeah, I think it's good. I can't imagine that I'd ever watch it again.
Nah.
Maybe.
Well, you will. You definitely will.
Maybe one day just to be like, okay, I'm looking at the beats. I mean, I watched it. I skimmed through it a second time this week anyway to see, like, reinforce some of those beats, knowing what I knew to be a fact. Like, I guessed the twist, but I didn't know that was going to be actually it.
Sure.
And yeah, I think, like, it's fine. I give it a 5 out of 9.
Yeah.
5 out of 9 swings on the Otis axe.
Good old Otis. I hear you. All of that resonates with me. My takeaway from this is maybe less helpful. I think this movie is a great episode of The X-Files. That's all it needed to be. It needed to be less than half an hour and could have been completely explored fully in that amount of time. So it's expanded out from that, I think, and exactly the same as you. I weirdly enjoyed it. Gave me some stuff to think about that was more interesting than, I guess, the movie itself. And I also kind of had fun, and I enjoy the visuals of 1970s Texas kind of in any media that's well executed. So enjoyed it from that perspective.
Yeah, it's worth saying as well that... Sorry, Sam. It's worth saying as well
please.
that the kid actors are pretty good. Pretty good. For like, in a world where 98% of all performances by children are like unreconcilable, dog shit, annoying, kick him into the sun. Like, these kids are, I think, pretty good. And the movie is marketed as Bill Paxton and Matthew McConaughey, but these kids are 99% of
they
the
do
screen
all
time.
the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
They carry the entire story. So yeah, without buy-in of those pretty earnest performances, you don't have a lot to keep you ticking in this movie because you're waiting for McConaughey the whole time. Well, at least I was. So I didn't enjoy the performances, but I thought they were about as strong as you could possibly get, in this movie, in this context. So I'm going to give it, controversial here, bud, 4.5 midnight meat trains out of 9.5.
Why midnight meat trains?
There's got to be a train in meat that leaves at midnight, right?
Yeah.
I assume.
The midnight meat train to Georgia.
Exactly. Matthew McConaughey's the conductor. Bill Paxton's taking tickets, and it's probably going to crash into a mountain. It just isn't a bad movie. There's just a lot to chew on that leaves you thinking, well, that wasn't really worth it.
Yeah. There are a million movies that are like this. Like we've said, Seven and The Bone Collector and Stir of Echoes or whatever.
I can't say that Seven is like this. Seven is basically a masterpiece, and this is daytime TV at best.
Genre world that this movie exists in, it comes from the Seven school of movies, right? Like it's a biblical murder based story that has the detective noir elements to it. Obviously, Seven is worlds ahead of this.
Yeah.
But like I say, there are lots of those movies. Fallen, all those Lincoln Rhyme movies with Morgan Freeman, like violent murder procedural thrillers. And once you reach the end of those, this is fine. This will button that, but not.
It's like saying American Pie and American Pie: The Naked Mile are in the same genre.
Yeah, I mean they're in the same franchise, so that's a bit different.
It is a bit different.
It's like saying
Road Trip and American Pie: The Naked Mile are in the same genre.
Does Road Trip hold up, Sam? I'm asking.
No. Good Lord, no. No. It doesn't hold up. It's bad. It's really bad. But Tom Green is hilarious, and he's not in it much. He's not in it enough. His little songs are very fun.
Let's wrap this fucker up. So the movie's fine. That's done with now.
Job's a good one.
Yeah.
Yep.
So one final thought from me is that if you wanted to support this podcast, there are a number of different ways that you can do it. You can help me and Sam out by joining up the Patreon. On the Patreon, you get unedited, extended versions of the podcast with all of the chat from the breaks. This episode particularly, we talked for a really long time about
throwing light bulbs.
Yeah.
We showed our 6-packs. You got to get that Patreon.
Yeah. And it's just a couple of quid or a few bucks a month. Like, help your favorite podcast out by subscribing to our Patreon and not theirs.
Help keep the lights on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You can also follow us on our various social media accounts. We have a TikTok, we have an Instagram, we have a Blue Sky, and it's all at FT Horror Show.
That's nice and consistent for people.
Yeah.
So type at FT Horror Show and follow us on things. Jamie does a great job of all the content on our social media, and you could engage with that content and therefore get closer to Jamie.
Closer to God.
Get closer to God.
Yeah.
Follow FT Horror Show on social media now.
The last thing you can do to support the podcast is tell your friends.
Yeah.
Share
totally.
our content on your social media. Tell him, or we'll send Uncle Larry around and he'll murder
Smack your
you
bum.
and bury you in the rose garden or something.
Yep. And if you haven't got any friends, that's fine.
Yeah,
We're your friends now.
Yeah, scream it into the void.
Yeah, do that. Lean out your window right now and scream it at a cop. Well, that was fun.
Yeah, I think
Good
so.
episode.
Yeah.
Well played, everyone.